and welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. I'm just going to start off with a happy note first. I'm going to do that. Congratulations to all of the members of the fourth class of Hoosier Women Forward. We're going to just call this Hoosier Women Forward Week. The ladies are ready to take on the world. It's an amazing class of 22 powerhouse women from all over the state. I tell you what, I was so excited to see this class because it's got every geographic, demographic, every type of woman you can possibly find to make sure that we are cultivating and bringing the right voices to our party to represent the people of the state of Indiana. Because see, I'm gonna tell you something. Right now, more than ever, we need that. We need that more than ever. I feel like we're living in some kind of twilight zone and no one told me to change the channel. Or somebody took the batteries out of my remote control, because the nonsense that we are witnessing right now is just insane. Let's start with Congress. Let's just go there. And you guys know that I am typically staying the borders, but I gotta tell you, Mitch McConnell is some kind of special. This fella says, and let's just paraphrase it, because I don't know if I can keep doing the Kentucky dribble. I don't know what that is, right? First and foremost. But what he says is, we need to raise the debt ceiling, the debt limit, so that we can pay our bills, but we're not going to help the Democrats do it. Then what the heck are you there for? Why are you getting a paycheck if you're not going to do your job? What kind of hypocrisy is this that Democrats didn't mind doing their job to help Republicans pass it, but now he's not going to pass it? But see, I can't even put it all on the Republicans this time, because we know that they're cowards. We know that they refuse to stand up to their party leadership. We know that they are incapable of representing all of the constituents in their districts or in their state. I am going to say, y'all know me, I don't really rag on Democrats too much, but I'm going to need Senator Joe Manchin and Senator Kristen Sinema, to get their act together. Because the people that are supporting them are looking to them to help pass this reconciliation, to help pass this infrastructure. And the fact that Kristen Sinema is a little ambiguous about where she stands on these bills is problematic when she comes from a purplish state. And Democrats are looking to her in Arizona to do the right thing, and she's not. So unlike Republicans who fall in line, these two Democrats right here, and we cannot, listen, I tell you all the time, we have got to hold all of our elected officials accountable. And in this case, I do believe these Democratic senators are in the wrong, and we need to hold them accountable. But let's go back to the other side, because they're much more comical. Have you been watching any of the Afghanistan hearings about the pullout, about the withdrawal of our forces from Afghanistan? Now, I find it interesting that people like Tom Cotton and Cowley, who couldn't say nothing, had nothing to say about the January 6th insurrection, want to go after these 4- and 5-star generals. These people have never picked up, well, I don't know about if they've been in the military or not, but they look like they haven't. Their hands look a little baby soft to me, like mine, because I'm a punk, I ain't going. But they want to act like this was the worst thing on the planet. First of all, let me say this. We shouldn't have been there. This is nothing against the troops, because they were following orders to the best of their abilities. They were putting themselves on the line to do what they were told they were supposed to do. And I respect and honor all of that. But the decisions to send those young men and women over there to fight, can I just say this? And I'm just going to be done with it. If you don't want to have to deal with global terrorism, I'm going to need people to stop going to brown countries and taking their natural resources without proper compensation. You probably won't tick anybody off. You probably won't have to go over there and fight terrorists if you're not taking their natural resources without proper compensation. If you stop trying to subjugate people all over the world, we probably wouldn't have these problems. See, we don't want to talk about that. We don't even want to talk about, how our nation was formed and have nuanced conversations, Wisconsin just passed a bill saying that there's a list of words that you can't say in schools because they think they're related to critical race theory. One of those words is equity. So now it's illegal, or not illegal, because luckily they have a Democratic governor. That bill probably won't be signed. But these legislators literally wrote down a list of words that cannot be said in school. But y'all want to go over and criticize these people who are willing to put their life on the line and did exactly what they were asked to do. I'm tired. Senator Tim Scott, with your lying behind. You know, us black folks, we say this thing, all skin folk ain't kin folk. Now listen, I know Senator Tim Scott ain't but 2 black folk in the Senate, and he's a Republican. But yo, he's lying, and he played Cory Booker because Cory Booker went in with good intentions. But you had to know, Master Mitch, I said it, Master Mitch wasn't going to allow Tim Scott to pass any real police reform. So what does he do? He lies about it. Just 2 weeks ago, Senator Cory Booker stood on the floor and said, I am so happy to endorse an amendment that takes away this notion that we want to defund the police. And what does Tim Scott do? He comes out this week and says, I can't support this bill because they want to defund the police. You're lying. The FOP supported this bill. The FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, have been right there co-signing on this legislation. There's so many things that got me hot under the collar right now. I'm just flabbergasted. So let's bring it back to Indiana. Shall we talk about those redistricting maps? Can we do that for just a second? And you know what? First of all, we already knew they were going to do what they were going to do the way they were going to do it. But the blatant, I'm not listening to my constituents. I'm not going to listen to the people who are coming to these town halls dismissing their concerns as if they don't matter. See, now more than ever, y'all, now more than ever is the time for us to say enough is enough. Yeah, we're having a march on Saturday, October the 2nd at the Lugar Plaza, 10:30 a.m. to march for women's reproductive rights. But why are we having to even do this in 2021? Ain't we had enough? Haven't we had enough of people writing legislation that is harmful to women, that takes away their body autonomy, that they can make decisions on their own? Aren't we tired? Aren't we tired of legislators forgetting that part of infrastructure means that people can go back to work and have affordable childcare? Does that not even matter anymore? It does matter, and each and every one of you knows it matters, and that is why it is so important for y'all to be as fed up as I am right now. I'm like so fed up. I'm getting hot under the collar, and it ain't even the lights. It's time for us to get busy. We can no longer sit on the sidelines. We can no longer pretend like we can wait on somebody else to solve this problem for us. We have to do it for ourselves. That's it. That's all. There's enough of us out here to make a difference. There's enough of us out here to wreak some havoc and shake up everything. If you believe in infrastructure needs, and see, listen, the lieutenant governor has been talking for the last 6 years about how she's going to work so diligently to get the rural areas of our state high-speed internet. Where it at? Where are the contracts? Where are the negotiations? Where are the public-private cooperations? What you been doing? No, the Build Back Better plan comes, and now there's some money because we understand the importance of taking care of infrastructure. There's so much that we need to do. If you want to make sure that our children are getting the rigorous curriculum that they need to be competitive in this world, you need to be involved in enough of this terrorizing school board members. Enough of this. We need to show up and show out at every level. Get your homies, get your girls, get your sorority, your fraternity, get your Boy Scout troop. I don't care what it is. It is time for us to get busy because we are watching this ship go down. And those of us that ain't sitting on stacks in the Cayman, we're going to be behind hole out. We're going to be left holding the bag on a planet that's dying because we continue to pollute it. Enough is enough. And y'all need to be as fed up as I am about all of this. But listen, let's channel that energy. And that's what I'm trying to do. And that's why I'm excited tonight. Because with reorg comes new energy. With reorg, you get new faces in places doing different things. And I'm excited tonight because for the last 4 years, I served honorably as best I could, pissing people off on occasion. Your deputy chair of engagement. Now we have a whole host of amazing people who are willing to go to the next step and take it to the next level. Y'all, I can go on all night, and I know my crew today will go with me, and we're going to talk about why it's important for us to be involved. Let me introduce to you 3 of our 5 new deputy chairs. Where's my list? Oh, here we go. The Honorable Nicole Bolden, the Bloomington City Clerk, Destiny Wells, and y'all know Christina Hale. Come on, she's been trying to shake it up for a while now. She puts herself on the line all of the time. Y'all, welcome to the show. Y'all all on mute. Somebody come off.
Hey.
Somebody come off of mute. What's going on, y'all? Destiny, I'm actually going to start with you. You're the first time guest on the show. Tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Well, thanks for having us. I'm super happy to be here. So, Destiny Wells, I live in downtown Indy. I met most of you through Who's Your Women Forward, and that was a great event today. So happy to see all these women throughout the state. It hit me the other day. I wouldn't be able to be friends with such a dynamic group of women if it weren't for my involvement in the Democratic Party. And especially during COVID, because none of us were making friends during COVID. So I'm the deputy chair of Coalitions and Expansion. So all the affinity groups we have throughout the state, and they pop up like dandelions. It's hard to keep track of. And Dana, I don't know how you did it for 4 years, keeping track of all those groups. And so I'm doing that. And then our expansion piece. So our councils and our caucuses with the party. We have about 4 or 5 right now. If you want me to go run through the list of them.
Absolutely.
We have seniors. We have seniors. You had Randy Schmidt on a couple weeks ago or maybe last month, and that was so informative to listen to. Love working with Randy. I will tell you, seniors understand the long game. They're playing the long game well, and so they are looking to try to get council status, and they are well organized, and they are everywhere. Disability is just starting up. We are working with a representative from the DNC, so we look to get that message out soon to the congressional district chairs. We'll start from there. Veterans, November, the state party is going to be having a Veterans Day event, and I'm super partial to veterans because you talked about Afghanistan earlier. I mean, I still think I have soft hands, Dana. But I was in Afghanistan.
Well, and you know what? I was
so full of you.
Yeah, but you know what? I was going to ask you about that because you and I had a chance to just kind of chat a little bit in French Lick and Catherine Cheese Baby Shower and some other places. You did serve and you spent time over in Afghanistan. A lot of us are just literally pontificating from the safety of our homes. Tell us what it was like over there, and share your feelings about our pullout, what we did right, what we did wrong, all of that good stuff. Share it with us. You got that experience.
Oh, I appreciate it. I've been in for 18 years. Met my husband there, or not in Afghanistan, through the military. You guys, I go on active duty tomorrow, so I may be playing a little, quieter role in the party because I gotta, we have these things called the Hatch Act, and then the military is even stricter. So I'll be doing that for just a little bit. But I was there in Afghanistan 16, 17 as a military intelligence officer, and I was working the linguist contract. And so I'll tell you, it's been I just felt like the world was on its head the last couple months because I was at the airport. Most of the time, that's where I slept. I'd fly around the country. And so it was a really eerie to be hearing people that had never been there talking about like Abbygate and all these like really nuanced things where, linguists and other people that worked on our contracts were trying to get through and leave at the last minute on those special immigration visas. So my take on it is when we start to politicize the narrative that is coming out of this 20-year conflict, we have to be careful. And even as Democrats, we have to be careful. Because I will tell you, Afghans worked there. I mean, they worked for us for years. We would come and go, and they would stay and live that life day in and day out. And they wanted a better life.
Yeah.
And we need to remember that. It wasn't because they didn't try and didn't want it. There's so many layers to that onion. So that's my hot take on it.
Yeah,
I appreciate you asking.
No problem. And the thing that kind of disturbed me about the criticism that was coming in was, why didn't we start it earlier? Why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do that? But people forget that, Miller and the Trump administration was like, they can't come here. I mean, there was just this whole, notion that we couldn't, if we pulled out, we couldn't bring our allies from Afghanistan over to our nation. They can't come here. So that was one of the biggest delays of not getting things done the way we needed to get done. And so I just want, I appreciate that perspective because, again, I got the lawnmower behind me. I knew that was going to happen. The weed eaters behind me. And I'm glad. I am really, really glad that we had a chance to share that perspective. All right, I'm going to go next up. She was a candidate for lieutenant governor. She served in our state house as a representative of District 87. And just recently, she was running for Congress in the 5th district. Y'all give it up to my homegirl. And I'm going to be real with y'all. One of the people early on that put me on. When I started this, she invited me to places in Michigan City. She introduced me to the Indianapolis Business Journal editor so that I could write for them. She is all about giving back, leaving the ladder down. I'm so excited that she is a deputy chair. Y'all give it up for Christina Hale. Christina Hale, welcome to the show.
It's good to see you all. Yeah, this is a great group you put together.
I didn't do this. You have to thank Mike Schmuel. He's the one that assigned all of the deputy chair roles. And then last but not least, I get to take a point of special privilege. I gotta like that. This is the first ever Black elected official in Bloomington. She's the first ever Black elected LGBTQ plus woman of color elected in the entire state. And she my girlfriend, so I can say that. She my girlfriend. Y'all give it up to the Honorable Nicole Bolden. Nicole, welcome to the show.
Thank you, but I do have to make a tiny correction to what you said.
I'm
not the first.
Your mother was the first, right?
No, actually, Vitala Farrow was the first Black judge in Monroe County. My mother was the first directly elected.
Okay.
Black judge in Monroe County.
Sorry.
I was the first Black woman elected to city office in Bloomington. And the first man elected to city office in Bloomington was Paul Swain for the city council.
Excellent.
So we have a lot of firsts coming out of Bloomington. So
now the show is complete. I'm super happy. I'm glad it worked. Okay, so listen, y'all. I named 3. Well, I knew I had 4. One of the things that we always heard about when over the 4 years that I was in the party and working diligently as the deputy chair of engagement is how we have not done everything we needed to do to engage our rural community. Now we got a powerhouse knocking it out. Y'all give it up for Kent Yeager. Kent, welcome to the show.
Well, I apologize for being late, Dana. I got stuck in a soybean field, actually, and not a way to get to a vehicle because, well, it's a long story like those things go. So anyway, I sincerely apologize and just be glad that you can't see the grease that's still in my arms.
Hey, that's, you know what? We all hardworking people. Kent, you've not ever been on the show before. Tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Well, that's a long story, but I'll try to make it short. As I sit here now in my office at home, I am looking at Kentucky out my window to my right. And the only houses you can see from my house are in Kentucky. Our farm runs into the Ohio River. So we are the Kentucky line right here. So first of all, geographically, I am as far south as you can get right here. Anyway, you can technically get a little farther south in southwest Indiana, but Corydon is 15 miles north of me in Harrison County. Anyway, so middle of the state, far south. I have farmed for about half my life, and then have done a number of other things. Among those, I was FSA state director, Farm Service Agency, at the beginning of the Clinton administration. I worked for Farm Bureau for several years. I actually retired from there in 2013. Most of that time was spent as the director of government relations, or at one point it was public policy. We changed names of it a time or two. Then after that retirement, I worked for Senator Donnelly for the time that he was in the Senate. So, as his ag liaison in the state anyway. So I've been involved in a lot of things. Hey, my thing now, besides this, and the reason I thought twice about doing this, is I'm president of the Indiana Barn Foundation, trying to maintain old wooden barns, primarily mortise and tenon barns, but brown barns fall into that. Any of these older barns that are made from wood. Anyway, I think there's a lot of important heritage, both farming heritage, but certainly heritage for communities in the state, as far as that goes, associated with a lot of these old barns. So I spend a lot of time at that too. Anyway, so that's probably enough about me right now. Anyway.
Oh, that's great. So now, one of the things that after the reorg, a lot of the council, or when I was on the Central Committee, a lot of the discussion was, how do we reshape and reframe the roles of deputy chairs? So it used to be they were deputy chairs of a particular region, and someone would go out and work their region. Well, now they're deputy chairs of a specific action, a specific space, a specific target audience from in all 92 counties. Talk about, and I want you guys to have this real conversation. Talk about how you see your role as deputy chair and the assignment that you have been applied, you've been voluntold to do. Not everybody at once.
I'll jump in if you want.
Okay, excellent.
I'll tell you. So I am deputy chair for candidate recruitment. So that is just right in my sweet spot, because, something that I firmly believe and I feel just deeply passionately about is that government will be more effective when it looks more like this Zoom call than it does today. We have a very homogenous General Assembly, most city councils and school boards, you name it. And I think in order to really drive effective public policy, it's going to take the people to do it. We're a citizen-run government at our heart. And, that's how I tried to direct my work as a state legislator. But, somebody mentioned earlier today, many of us were at the Hoosier Women Forward event. And I think it was you, Destiny, just talking about that opportunity to network and get to know other Democratic women all over the state. And, after I lost my race for lieutenant governor, that's when I got really serious about putting together that organization with a number of women like Leanne Holka and Cherish Pryor and Representative Terry Austin and former Senator Vi Simpson, just a whole lot of amazing women. But I did write a statewide op-ed that said, first, shame on us for being late to the party, because the Republicans had a leadership series for women, ironically named after a man, Richard Lugar. But they'd had this for 27 years at the time, 27 classes of women that they're teaching how to campaign, and they're teaching about public policy and encouraging them to run and to be candidates and office holders themselves. And that's exactly what we need more of. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, it's a complicated job too, because I think a lot of people feel ownership over candidate recruitment, county chairs, city party chairs, district chairs, everybody I think likes to have a say in that quality control. So my role really is in helping to amplify their efforts. Um, some of you that know me know I can be a little bit persuasive when candidates are thinking about running for office. And I just see my role as being the chief encourager and that confidential person who can answer dumb questions, complicated questions, help you prepare, yourself emotionally, mentally, everything it takes to be a successful candidate and to make sure that our slate around the state reflects all people in our party. And something that continues to motivate me to this day, back in the 80s when Jackson was first running for president, he gave a speech at our Democratic National Convention about the quilt. And he talked about sleeping under old cracker sack and how it didn't keep anybody warm. But the Democratic Party was like that quilt that his grandmother made, and it needed labor, it needed women, it needed people of color. It just needed everybody to be a useful quilt that keeps everybody warm. And that, I think, is where our chairman, Mike, just wants us to not only encourage, but help connect the dots and be a resource for those people that step up and decide it is their time to run.
Well, and I'm glad you're actually a really good person to be in that role, because I'm going to ask you a tough question, right? You've had some wins, but you've actually had some losses, some high profile losses.
I've won when no one expected me to, and I've lost when everyone expected me to win. Wait, I won when they expected me to lose, and I've lost when they expected me to win.
But you know what? And I think that your experience in having wins and losses is incredibly beneficial when you're talking to candidates, because you can tell them, listen, you can put all this labor in, you can put all this love in, put all this commitment in, and it still may not work out. And there's no better person to have that conversation than someone that has been on both sides of that election.
Yeah, that's true. And I think nobody should fear loss, because I think those of you that have been candidates, Dana, I know this was your story. When you step up and run, hey, I'm a politician, so I don't like to make promises I can't keep, right? But I promise you this, you'll become more you after this experience. You'll be so much more clear about how you feel about policies and the world and those intimate things and those people that you want to support and just the nuances of policy. And you'll become so much more Teflon, because when you run for office, you're going to die 1,000 deaths by 1,000 teeny little daggers to your heart. People in our party, outside of our party, your neighbors. I mean, you're going to get disappointed and hurt, but you're going to heal and be stronger. And then you're going to discover people, and things will happen that you'll never have imagined, that will just grow your heart, make you so much more grateful and kind and human. And it's just an experience, I think, that if you're walking into it for the right reasons, you will continue to just grow and become more sure in your character, more ethical as a person, and absolutely stronger.
I could not agree with you more. That says it all right there. I mean, so now all my candidates out there, people who thinking about running, you know who to call. You know to call CH, baby. Nicole.
And can I say, I want to say this too. I'm writing a book about it right now, but for teenagers, because I also believe that, people like us that are motivated by our whys and our causes need to be in office. And that's where the real power is. So you can complain on your Facebooks, you can show up at rallies, and that's good. But if you really want to make change, you've got to take your servant leader's heart and apply it to positional leadership, and have that microphone and that vote and that ability to propose legislation and have a say and be at the podium. And so I am so excited that I have this opportunity, because I just want to be that encourager and to help get people young in life, early identifying that that's something they can do and should do. And then later in life saying, hey, stop putting this off. How dare you sit on the sidelines when you have a cause and a why, and you can do this and be elected if you work hard enough.
I love it. So the Honorable Nicole Bolden is the Bloomington City Clerk. Talk about your role and what you hope to accomplish as the new. Now, first, I'm going to give you your props because, oftentimes people don't pursue opportunities because they feel like, well, they already know who they want or they already decided who they're going to put in that place, right? But Nicole said, you know what? I think I would be a really good secretary of the party, and I'm going to run. And I'm going to put forth a positive effort, and I'm going to show up, and I'm going to run. Now, she ultimately did not win, but she's demonstrated that, yo, I'm a force to be reckoned with. And now she's the deputy chair of cities and towns. Nicole, talk about your role and what it means to be deputy chair of the state party.
Thanks, Dana, for talking about that devastating, heartbreaking loss. No, it wasn't really. Um, I look at the view of for my role. I'm the deputy chair for cities and towns. So my charge is to look at the municipal elections in 2023 and make sure that we're getting as many mayors and city council people and clerk treasurers and city clerks elected to office throughout throughout the state. Part of it is going to be data driven, and that is my hope. Now, I think a lot of people are kind of going, okay, but what about next year? What are you doing there? So doing a little bit in there too also, but that's the charge and that's what I'm working on. And I'm very excited about it. I wanted to be a part of the party structure. I've worked in the party before, and I have a very hard time being a part of an organization without being in the room and saying, hey, let's do this and let's try something new. And we need more women and we need more people of color. We need more LGBTQ folks actually talking, because sometimes you just have a blind spot and you don't see the things that matter to those people. So that's why I wanted to be a part of it. And I think it's a good thing. And I'm really thrilled to be able to work with Christina and Destiny and Kent and Eddie, because they're all really dynamic people in their own right. And yes, we're still spread out across the state from top to bottom, but we still get to touch base. And I think 4 of the deputy chairs were at the Hoosier Women Forward luncheon today.
Yeah.
So, we still get to see each other outside of party event or direct party events and other things. So it's a good chance to touch base. Some of what I will do will be kind of edging over into Christina's work as well, because there's going to be a little bit of candidate recruitment, but that's nice because then I can call her and say, oh, and by the way, help, I need some advice here. So I'm looking forward to it.
So, Christina touched on something, Nicole, that I think is passionate. You're pretty passionate about, based on, just all the many conversations that we have about politics all the time. She talked about taking that activism and that passion that you feel and putting it into an official role. One of the things that you and I talk about a lot is we see what happened in Minneapolis. We see where the activists in the streets said we want to see police reform, but they also had the right people in their city council to make those tangible changes. Especially when it comes to Black Lives Matter and a lot of things that really are, about who we are, especially our women's reproductive rights issues, the thing that's the hot button. Talk a little bit about how we take that activism that we all, most of us have, and turn it into policy making.
That is such an unfair question. I think part of it is I do think that if you have a passion for a certain area or a certain policy area, you should pursue it. I don't know that everybody actually has to serve as the policy maker, because we still need the activists who are pushing us to see things that we don't see. We still need people who are doing some of the other groundwork that supports the policy makers. So it's actually getting people involved from every possible angle, who are coming into the room and saying, this is what we want to see, and having somebody who can break it down and say, okay, we can do boom, 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 and this is how we're going to make this policy and push it forward. Now, it doesn't always work. We all know that. There are things that we want to see in our government that just still have not happened, and we're going on, how many hundreds of years. But it doesn't mean that we can't keep pushing for it, and that means we show up. And we show up to the meetings, and we show up to their town halls and to everything else, because we start coming and approaching from every possible place that we can.
And yeah, we don't
And
show up.
reading the agendas and reading what they're actually producing from these meetings, because it is so important and there's so much information. There's no way that one person can possibly keep up with everything. But when you find that area that you're concerned about, crowdsource it. Get a group of like-minded people together, and then all of you work on that one issue and save it for that one issue. If you care about school, focus in on school. Somebody else is going to focus in on whatever else they care about, and that's okay. You don't have to be everything to everybody. You do have to focus in on the things that you care about and make that time wherever you can.
I love it. I love it. And see, Kent, if we're honest about it, we only have what, maybe 6 counties, maybe 7 counties that are true urban centers, right? If we're really honest, there's some towns with more than 50,000 people, but that's not an urban center. It seems to me like the work that you have ahead of you, going into rural Indiana and talking about who we are as Democrats. What does that mean for you? What does that look like?
Well, yes, we have a lot of rural counties. And the way you define that, I actually was asked that in a meeting in Park County a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, I've dealt with this whole rural, how do you define rural, for 30 years, and there's no good way to do it. There are counties that have Grant County with Marion, for instance, significant urban area, but still a pretty rural county. And so, you've got a lot of question marks, I guess. A few that we'd all agree are urban, a few then question marks, and a lot of rural counties, I think, anyway. And let's face it, I think we've got to be realistic. At rural counties, this county, Harrison County that I live in, used to be a Democrat county. We're about at a baseline of 30% now. It's about where we're at. I ran for state representative last time, knew I didn't have a chance, but I just thought somebody should run. I got less than 30% in a county I've lived in my entire life and know a lot of people. But, that's where we're at. And I think we've got to recognize and admit that that's where we are. I think we're here not because we're wrong on policy. And, we've had some discussion about policy, and policy is what I have loved all my life. I have seen ways that good government can result in really good policy. We haven't had a lot of what I consider to be good policy lately, really, at the state level or at the national level. It's just not working. And I'm worried that if we don't do something, it might never work like it's intended to, and like I have seen it work in my lifetime anyway. So now back to the point that I said, I don't think it's because of policy. I really think we're competitive in this county and in other rural counties if people just looked at what it is that we believe in, even on the toughest of issues like abortion and gun control. But we have been, for so long, we have been branded by the other party, and people have believed it, and we're just a bad brand right now, is what I feel like. And so I think, we've got to do the kinds of things, and I've actually been trying to do some reading on branding is something I have never really been involved with or dealt with in my life. But I think it's important that we do some of that now and try to understand. And I believe in the old adage. I don't like it, but I believe in that old adage that if you're explaining, you're losing. Unfortunately, I think we're at the point we've got to explain to our friends and to our neighbors. And as I just said in Park County a couple of weeks ago, hey, we've got to have some of these conversations. I hate it. We shouldn't have to, but we've got to actually talk to some of these people. And the people flying the Trump flags, hey, those don't need to be your first target. It's the people we're friends with, and pointing out some of the things that, where we really need to explain a little more about what we believe. And we need to explain it because we have been branded by the other party. So, I think there's some of that. I thought it interesting too a while ago, Christina. One thing I think about a lot when you said, people getting more active. And there's no better example. And I believe, for instance, educators are a group that we need to, in rural counties, look to. In every county in Indiana, but particularly in rural counties. I mean, we have significant number of teachers in every rural county. There's no better example than, to me, of the big Red for Ed rally. Almost 2 years ago now, and one of my daughters is a teacher. She was talking about how exciting that was with all, to have all these teachers there. And, I said, yeah, it is. But until you start voting for what you're talking about, you can have every rally you want, have huge crowds, but until you vote that way, it's not going to make any difference. So we've some way got to get people to connect. We've got this huge disconnect, particularly in rural Indiana. In a lot of Indiana, I think even in some urban areas, fortunately, it's not quite as bad there. But we've got this disconnect between what people want in policy and the way they're voting. In some way, we've got to reconnect those two things. And it's not easy. I wish I could sit here and say, hey, we're going to turn things around next year. It's going to take us a while. Oh, yeah. But if we can begin to get ourselves back in rural counties to where we can, instead of having a baseline of 30%, hey, if we can get to 35 or hopefully maybe to 40%, we can get people elected other places. We have a chance to elect a governor. We have a chance to elect a senator, and maybe even, if we can get to that point, maybe even a state representative, even if we can't do much ourselves. But it's not easy. I didn't think there'd be any way we would get here when this all started. 15 or 20 years ago, however far back you want to look at it. But you see these things happen incrementally, and I didn't think people would buy it, especially when you look at local, how important it used to be locally. Tip O'Neill's old saying, all politics are local. Well, yeah, it used to be, but it's not anymore.
Not anymore. Anyway, Cable TV changed that.
Yeah. So that's some of what I'm looking at. I think one of the things we've got to do first is we've got to recognize all these good Democrats that are in rural counties, because that 30% is pretty hardcore for us anyway. And it's so easy just because of the nature of being sparsely populated in rural areas to think I'm the only one. And we can't have people think that, because if you think you're the only one, you may feel like you're just going to give up. Why even bother? So we've got to reconnect and get those people energized first. And then, if we can get them talking to their friends who are not necessarily voting Democrat now, I think we can make some progress. So that's just a few of the things that are on my mind.
But you actually, you hit on some amazing points, and much of what you're mentioning now, and I'm so glad that there's someone who is going to be targeted in this area. I've been to physically over 50 counties and spoken at events and been places and listened to people go, I didn't even know I was the only Democrat, right? So I've been hearing this since 2017. And we're still not at a point where all of us know who we are. And we've got so much more work to do. We can't, granted, I understand we turn out Marion County, Lake County, Allen County, Vanderburgh, and St. Joe. We have a good chance of doing a whole lot of stuff statewide, but that's not the point sometimes. Sometimes it really is engaging with people who are passionate about the things that you're passionate about. And if they just happen to live in Lagodi, which I've been to, if they happen to live in Lagodi, Indiana, you tap into that and you bring them out, because you never know what kind of influence they have in their communities. I'm loving it. I'm actually excited. And Kent, I gotta say this. A lot of people get upset when I say this, but I'm gonna say it. Not every Democrat can go in every area. Not every Democrat is gonna be effective in every space. I'm gonna be real honest. I'm probably not going to be nearly as effective in rural Indiana as Kent Yeager's going to be. So we all have to remember to embrace our big tent so that we can be strategic about where we place people. I know that we want to be we want to be everything, but we cannot forget that, people like familiarity. People are sometimes comfortable with that. Yes, I think that a minority person can represent a majority population. Yes, they can. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying, when we're sitting at a solid 30%, let's just go on and put somebody over that they comfortable with, what they familiar with, and let them talk about the policies, because it's received different depending on who the messenger is. We can pretend like that ain't a thing, but we know it's a thing. Destiny, I'm really kind of fired up because you got that that leadership that, again, us soft-handed, people who don't like mud can't mess with. Talk about what you see in your role and how you plan on bringing that unique military leadership. You're a mom, you're a wife, you're an attorney, all those many different things that you bring to the table. How are you going to enhance your deputy chair role?
Well, and that's how I marketed myself to the chair.
I didn't even know that.
Be involved, and I don't have the campaign chops, yet. I hope as somebody like Christina or Nicole, and so I wanted to be engaged from a strategic point in organization building, and reorg. Everybody's energized. There are so many individual Democrats and groups who are hungry to be involved and to be recognized. And I think we only, you have a window there after reorg that you need to do that before you lose those people who are interested. And so we need to be able to extend ourselves and make good on that promise that we want to bring these groups in and be involved. And listening to everybody speak, listening to Kent talk about, rural Indiana, something we learned in the pandemic was how to connect with each other, in a virtual environment. And now that we're moving slowly but surely out of the pandemic, we have those tools to get connected. Mm-hmm. And we know how to connect with people who are in different Hoosier communities that have specific issues that are important to them. And so that's what I want to do. I want to empower those groups, and I want it to be a two-way street. And I think maybe that's been missing, is that we're not utilizing these groups in an effective way to get Democrats elected. And that's really what we need to do. And so we need to provide these groups with resources and tools, and then allow these groups to show up. Nicole talked about diversifying the party and revealing those blind spots that we have mm-hmm. by not having everyone involved. And that's the amazing thing about the expansion effort, is that we're allowing all those, caucuses and councils that are minority voices to be able to come to the table and be represented and make our party richer and more effective. But we have to kind of shake mm-hmm. maybe a little bit of indoctrination over the years about how things should be, and start trying to be innovative as an organization. And so that's really what I want to do. What I'm trying to do is to be that that channel to the party, to allow us to be more strategic as an expansive organization.
I think that is a fantastic idea, and you hit on something that is incredible. When I was doing my thing, and I refer back to it because it's nice to see that a lot of the things that I saw are now going to be dealt with by an expanded group of deputy chairs. I would go and meet with certain groups, and these folks were diehard liberals, they were diehard progressives, they were diehard blue dogs, they were diehard liberals, but they weren't Democrats. And I think there was some missed opportunities by saying, well, you kind of have to be in the party or, be in the space. And instead of allowing them to be who they are and use their skill set and their organization to do what they do. I mean, think about it. What if we had really tapped in to the nasty women movement? What if we had really tapped into that? What if we had really tapped into Indivisible? These groups, Moms Demand Action. If we had really tapped into them and said, okay, how can we be partners in the work? How can we share resources? How can we share communication chains? All those things. And I'm super excited because I've been so incredibly impressed with your presence and the way that you handle your business. You know what I'm saying? And I'm glad that you're in that role. And I'm telling y'all, all of y'all making my heart swell because there's so much work that has to be done and it can't be done by one person. It has to be done by a group. So how do you guys plan on working together? I know that Nicole, go ahead, Christina.
Well, to build on the points that, Nicole and Destiny and Kent have been making too, and sometimes people don't feel like they're part of the group or they want to be, in the party, but they just feel like lone actors. There are a couple of things that everyone can do. And one is run for precinct committee person and really do the job. And, that is a working job and both parties have them. And, we have resources at the state level and at state party to help you work that job. But this is something everyone can do as well, is just show up. Google it, go to the state party website, find your area. There are meetings going on pretty close to you. If you don't have childcare, bring your kid, show up. But the other thing I'll ask for you people showing up, because I have a feeling your listeners, Dana, are the kind of people that show up.
Yeah.
So would you think about inviting someone along with you the next time you go to a meeting, the next time you're attending a Zoom? Have a Zoom party, and every time we say equity, everyone, make it a little fun. Do it your way, but show up and then just invite that one person and it starts to build. And there really is something in the power of one as well.
Can I say that's something I had said? I was up in Huntington and we were talking, and I said, part of being a Democrat is you don't always have to be in full political mode. You could just go next door and say, hey, there's a school board meeting going on. Do you want to go over with me and listen and grab your neighbor? Because that's an easy way to do it. You've got free time. You're just sitting on the couch anyway. Go watch a school board meeting or a government meeting. Or if you're in Bloomington, come watch like a 5-hour meeting because sometimes they go long, But I
did you want to trigger me?
You.
Is that what you were doing? You were triggering me?
Just a little bit. So, and I love my job, so I'm not knocking my job. I'm just saying you can bring somebody along with you and actually, have fun, socialize, and that's a very soft way to bring somebody into the party and not alienate them from the party. A lot of times when people say, well, I'm a part of the party, and there's a distancing, and I think people need to remember to speak in we, which is we want to see these things as policies. We want to see, higher pay for our teachers. We want to make sure that everybody has good working conditions. It is not necessarily a party specific thing. It is just, this is what we all want. Our party happens to be pushing harder for it, and that's great. But we want these things. Help us get this done.
Absolutely.
And that helps a lot.
And absolutely. And
that's my experience.
And everybody can have like their own skill set. One of the things we talk about with Hoosier Women Forward is don't look at your neighbor and go, wow, she's great. I may not be that great. Recognize, recognize what your talent is and bring your talent to the table. I did say Kent. Come on, bro.
Yeah, okay. Well, I thought you did, but then I was not sure. Yes. That's the way we get these people. We've got to identify them and then get them engaged some way. And hey, it's a small start, but it's back to that precinct committee kind of activity that Christina mentioned, that we've really kind of gotten out of doing. I mean, we have. I think that's happened. It's happened here. I think it's probably happened most places.
Oh God, yes.
Like that wasn't really cool anymore, but that's kind of where we can get some of these people back, I think, is to start at that level, get them involved. We have an activity going on here that our new county chair, has started with it's called Blue Dot Podcast, and she has people going to school board meetings. I just listened to the park board meeting podcast today from last night. They're going to county council, commissioner meetings, recording those meetings, and they're
I like that.
she's had lots. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people listening to these things now who
I
didn't.
like that.
So it's another little way that may not fit everybody. Again, it's that, what you can do what you can do to help get people engaged, because we've got to get them active again and paying attention.
Absolutely. And I think you guys, I think you guys are all like on the right track. I think you all bring, even though you are veterans in the game or veteran, you bring uniqueness to the party. So we're about to. This went way too quick. This went way too quick. Our time is almost up. So I want each of you to share a situation or an issue that you feel passionate about right now. Not necessarily as a deputy chair, but as a constituent in the state of Indiana. Something that you're passionate about, and maybe a possible solution. And I'm going to go ahead and go in alphabetical order. Honorable Nicole Bolden, you can go first. Tell me something you're passionate about and a possible. It may not work. It may work. We don't know. But just how you're thinking about it.
Okay, well, one of the biggest things I want to see is more women of color holding elected office throughout the state. I live in a very blue community. All of our city officials are Democrats, and that is not the norm for the state. I know we have 3 county commissioners, so we have an all-woman county commissioner board, but while we have a lot of women who hold office, we have a lot of Democrats who hold office, we do not have a lot of women of color who hold office. As a matter of fact, we don't have a lot of people of color, period. And that is in a very, very democratic town that prides itself on its openness and diversity. And I would like to see that throughout, not just in this town, but throughout the state. And I think part of it is actually actively recruiting people. So Christina, and reaching out to our coalition groups, and so that's for Destiny, and actually getting out into some of those rural communities. So Kent, and also, I know Eddie's not here, but engaging with people in every possible way. So that is one of the things that I'm most concerned about, and really talking to people and saying it's okay to run for office, because I know women tend to not run for office as readily as men do, and women of color, again, even less so. But reminding people they're going to bring a different perspective, and you're going to get good things out of it. And when we broaden our base, we all come up.
Yeah.
And people are afraid of that sometimes. So that's my big thing.
All right,
Sorry.
Christina Hale, next up.
Well, as the legislative session is preparing, I think it's going to be a fairly brutal one, and one that's really focused on a lot of social issues. So certainly with a mind to reproductive justice, I think we're going to be playing defense. But I think there's also a lot of opportunity then for offense as well, because that's the sort of time that you can push forward also some more women-friendly legislation to help people balance out their conscience, and it's sometimes a real opportunity to get things passed. And right now, it still kills me that we are paying sales tax on adult and baby diapers and feminine hygiene products. And as we've been living through COVID and counting our pennies, and there are just so many issues out there, I think this might be the kind of year, while people are distracted with some of the louder and more long-standing issues, maybe we can push and make real change on some of these smaller issues that tend to get forgotten when we're all so upset.
Yeah, I like that. And you know how the inner workings of those chambers work. And like I said, having you on board is a good thing. Miss Destiny, what's yours?
Well, I'm going to be honest to the question. You said in this moment. So as my husband's texting me, when are you done? The baby's injured. He's going to emergency nose scrape. Yes.
Always a mother.
kind of in the same vein as what Christina said, I want us to progress some policy that is going to take care of families. I don't care if you're Democratic or Republican. On the American Rescue Plan tour, I was up in Wells County, and we were talking about soft infrastructure. We were talking about childcare, and talk about something that resonated in rural communities because they don't have a lot of childcare. I had multiple people come up to me after that, and they said, my daughter sent my grandbaby to an unlicensed daycare provider, and he sustained an injury. I had another grandfather come up and say, I wasn't planning on watching my grandchildren in retirement, but that's what I'm doing. People want these services. And so, I want the Democratic Party to be the one to help provide those and progress those issues. And let's just be honest about it. I mean, this is what people want. And, to Kent's point, they may not necessarily be voting for the things that they want by the people they're choosing. So that's what I want.
All right. Kent, you get to close it down.
Well, I just say, we've got to connect with people. I want to see us get that connection, and especially with young people. As the oldest person here, we've got
to really
focus on young folks. They should be easy for us. They're all not, but we need to help them get involved, especially. Everybody, but hey, we need some focus, I think, on young folks and helping to get them involved and active and understand that what being a Democrat is, caring about people, and help them find their place in this party.
Well, and
I got to give a shout out really quickly, Dana, because our Indiana Young Dems have grown exponentially. They've put in so much work. It's paying off. Just in the past 5 years, they have blown up, and I'm so amazed by them every day. If anyone's getting things done, it's those guys.
Yes, they are. They are the benchmark, and I've been saying it for the last couple of years right here on this show. That leadership team is awesome. I have stolen a couple of them to come sit on the Stonewall board because they know what they are doing. They got the passion and they've got the commitment. And Kent, I wasn't gonna say anything because I don't know how sensitive people are about where they are in their life, their circle of life. But one of the things that I'm excited about is that this group of district or deputy chairs it spans generations. And I think that is just as important as anything else. And I know that you said we needed to engage young people, and I am all for that. But I'm going to say one other thing. You don't get to live to be a senior without learning a few things and retaining a few things along the way. So we all need to make sure that we are picking the brains of our seniors so we can get some of that information. Even if what they're telling us is bogus, at least somebody's thinking it. So if one person's thinking it, somebody else is thinking it. But you pick the brains of our seniors so that you can get that knowledge, and sometimes you can avoid making some of the silly mistakes that you make. So it goes both ways. Yes, let's reach out to our young people and encourage them to get involved, but I'm gonna need the young people to understand you don't know everything. And you got to go over here and talk to some of these old folk that's been in the business or have been around. Like I tell people all the time, I'm new to politics, but I ain't new to humans. You know what I'm saying? Y'all, thank you so much for joining me on Turn Left, Indiana's own Dana Black, Turn Left. Man, I was excited about the show, and it turned out to be everything I expected it to be. I know everybody said, go to these school board meetings. Just don't act like those imbeciles that have been showing up, acting up. Can we go and show them what real adults are supposed to be like? Set the example for the young people about how you're supposed to behave in public, because apparently some people forgot that. Anyway, Indiana's own Dana Black. All right, next week. It's one of my Legends show. I'm excited. She's a powerhouse, y'all. And I get kind of groupied out just mentioning how fabulous she is. And I'm grouping out so bad I forget. She was state senator, right? And she was also a candidate for lieutenant governor, right? Did I get that right? Y'all, next week I'm gonna have the incomparable Vi Simpson on Turn Left. We are going to chop it up, chuck it up. We're gonna have a good time, and she's gonna bestow on us a lot of that wisdom that we just mentioned. So make sure you tune in next week when we talk to Vi Simpson. She, I'm one of those people. There are certain people that call, and some of them I answer right away. Some of them I answer and the phone slips out my hand because my hand is sweaty. That would be a Vi Simpson. So y'all make sure y'all tune in next week. And thank you so much for tuning in every week. If you like what we are doing, click the donate link. Donate to Turn Left. Donate to Team Action so that we can keep bringing you the stuff. Black Pearl Studios is mobile. We will be able to come to your candidate function, your party event. We can live stream it, record it, get it where you want it, and do what you want to it, because it's about continuing the communication chain. If we keep waiting on somebody else to tell our story, it won't get told. I talked to Deb Chubb. We are going to collaborate. We are going to come together on a show. Can y'all dig it? DB and DC on the same show? Oh my God, that's gonna be dope. All right, but next week, Vi Simpson, Indiana's on and the Black Turn Left. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will holler at y'all next week. Peace.